Hey YouTube, we're at day 26 of the 31 Days of Tarot, and you're not going to see my face today because we're actually taking a look at my big-ass tarot spreadsheet. Um, so the prompt was to share your tarot journal if you have one, and this is more what I have. I do have a regular journal that I will sometimes just like write some reflections on longer readings in, but this is more like what other people would use a tarot journal for. I will try to remember to leave a card, or at least in the end screen, link to my big ass tarot spreadsheet tour. This is just going to be an update. So I'm just going to show you, because you can look at that video, it hasn't changed. But I'm going to show you the things that have changed. The things that I either has changed or tabs that I've added. So things like my readings tab where I record readings, like that hasn't really changed. You know, the tarot card meanings haven't changed. Some things, though, that I have added, we'll start with the spread index. So I wanted to index, I'm still working on this, but I wanted to index the spreads I use because I love spreads and I use a lot of them and I use them randomly. And I have a deck, a PowerPoint deck, that I had been using to keep them, but it was getting so big that it was hard to find things just by scrolling through. So this is the deck. And so you can see I have one open here from the Curious Card Slinger. So sometimes I will like just, if there's an image and it's easy to read, I'll just put it in there. Sometimes I will put text next to an image, or what I will often do, where's one of these, is like this. So I'll try to draw essentially the spread with shapes and then put what the positions are. If there's not an image that I can use. So, but scrolling through this, I mean, I have these like header slides, challenges and decisions, for example, but it was really hard to find things. So I added this index where I have that category that the header slide is there for, the name and the source if I know where it's from. Most of the time I do. I'm starting to do this frequency column so that I can quickly find like, what are the things that I could just pull all the damn time versus the kinds of things you probably do, you know, once or twice a year, or you know, every few months or something. And then some notes if it's helpful to like further expand on the title. And you can see that I've highlighted in green ones I use a lot or ones I want to use a lot, so that I can quickly go to them. So that's my spread index. Another well, this is kind of specific. So I have, if you've been watching my tarot study series, which again I'll try to remember to link, I will show some examples of cards. And so what I've been doing is I went through all my decks, and then as I get new decks, I will go through each deck once I'm ready and pick out the cards in that deck that I really like the interpretation of, or that I just like the image, and add it to the spreadsheet so that when I get to, say, doing a video on the Eight of Cups, I've got like 6 different cards I want to show. And I will write like a little note if I want to remember why I wanted to show that card. So that's new. Also, when I interview my decks, so I think I don't know if I've shared this on YouTube, I think on Instagram, but I've changed things up a little bit. So if you go to my Instagram at Avery Fawcett, you can actually see my new spread, my new interview spread. So I used to do 2 different spreads from different sources, and I decided to kind of combine and then make my own. So I have this 8-question spread, and I've been using that for the initial interview. And again, it's on my Instagram if you want to see like what it actually looks like, because it has a little shape. But this is a little quicker. I've changed the way I do pull cards in general, where I shuffle in between each question or each couple of questions, and I found that that actually really works well for having a conversation with the deck. So that's what I do. And then I am still doing like a re-interview after a year. I'm doing a check-in, and that's also somewhere on my Instagram, although you might have to scroll back a little bit to find this 8-card check-in. And I've added an exit interview for decks that I am done with, to make sure they're ready to go and just to get like a final message from them. So that's my deck interviews. The other thing I've changed is I showed in the last video that after I interviewed the deck, I had this tab where I had all these different like categories, and I would be like, here's the decks to use for this, here's the decks not to use. I never used this. Or at least I didn't use it very much, especially as I got more and more decks, it just became unwieldy. So I decided to simplify, and I now have the simple deck guidance. So, name of the deck, I copy paste from the interview the when to use, which is the column that I sort of summarize. I do the interpretation of the spread, and then I'm like, okay, great, what did that tell me about when I should use this deck? So I do want the details. Then I just have this very simple to filter on 5 columns. Everybody can laugh at the fuck column, because that is definitely a thing. It's basically like, the way I think of it is, so I'll check off like the kinds of readings the deck might be good for, and then I'll look here for more details. But introspection would be like spreads about just about myself, like general areas of life type spreads, just like how are things going, digging in. Whereas shadow would be some of the more deeper work, the shadow work, things I'm not aware of. Practical is like questions, like things about work, things about relationships, just like practical stuff happening in life. And I'll look, to the column G for like what kinds of practical questions. Unfocused is like, can I use this deck if I just don't know what the hell I'm doing? If I don't really have a question in mind, if I'm just not sure. Whereas the fuck column is more like, I'm freaking out, I'm in a bad place, I'm dealing with grief or anger or like hard emotions. Unfocused is more just like meh, I don't know. So this has been actually super helpful because I can quickly filter on one or more columns, and then out of the decks that appear, take a look at the details. That works great for me. I think that actually, does that cover it? Yeah, so those are all the new things. Again, you can check out the Big Ass Tarot Spreadsheet tour to see my like main parts of the spreadsheet, like how I actually record readings. But I hope this was interesting for you. I look forward to seeing your journals on the hashtag. And don't forget to subscribe if you want more super nerdy tarot content. I'm here for you.